Yes, sir. We're officially back at it. Boog, nice. Coming at you with my first top something or other of 2021 and 2022. So basically recapping everything that happened in the world of collecting and displaying, top picks, worst picks, whatever it may be. This is the first video of this sort from me. Happy New Year. Just a friendly reminder that you should go back and check out our most recent episode of the Articulated Comic Book Art Podcast. We did talk top 10s a bit in this episode. We'll dig into that a bit deeper in this coming week's episode, but I wanted to kick things off here with my top 5 most disappointing figures in 2021. Let's do it.
This ain't for no scalper. You a scalper? Then fuck out shit. This one's for them real collectors. That's army building and posing figures. Marvel Legends, imports, mini matey, I'm fucking with them. Hype beast, we know about you. Stay buying figs, don't know about it.
So we're still trying to get things back to normal in terms of everything that's going on with the pandemic. Obviously, we all spent a lot of time at home this year. So that gave us a lot of time with our figures, a lot of time to play with our toys, sit back, reflect. And I think that probably gave all of us a deeper insight into the things that we like and don't like. So again, this is top 5 most disappointing figures. This will be quick. Of course, this is going to be based on things that I actually purchased that came out in 2021 that I did open, that I held, that I tried to display with or did display with. Coming in at number 5 is going to be the Marvel Legends Ursa Major Build-A-Figure Wave Stealth Iron Man. The truth is Hasbro can't really go wrong with this particular buck, this mold, and using this as a base buck for building on for more Iron Man armors. And I love the look of this figure. Again, the sculpt, the design, everything here is great. They're building off of a formula that's tried and tested, but this damn figure crumbled in my hand right out of the package. So obviously that was very disappointing. And while I can just buy another figure and try it again, I have seen that across the board this was an issue with a lot of collectors out there. So I've been a little hesitant about buying a second copy of this figure. I never really even got to do a full review or really shoot this figure because again, it fell apart in my hands. Now it seems there is some issue with the plastic or paint used on these kind of marbleized figures from Marvel Legends. So hopefully they can correct this issue in 2022. I have them at the top of the list because I could just buy another one and hopefully the second time will be a charm. And a dishonorable mention around the number 5 slot, I have to mention the Marvel Legends retro carded Avengers Tigra figure. Now the figure is actually a really nice figure. It's a nice sculpt. She actually looks good. My major issue with this figure, which I believe was the same issue that 99.9% of collectors had, was that the color just seemed off. She was too orange. So hopefully at some point Hasbro will take another crack at this, give us a sort of redecoed version, maybe some different head sculpt and do some color correction on her. But you know, I did open her. I haven't actually shot her yet. I will. She's essential to a lot of different things that you may want to do, especially as it relates to West Coast Avengers. So I'd like to see Hasbro take another crack at this. My number 4 most disappointing figure in 2021 is going to be the Zimnu Build-A-Figure Wave the Hood figure. I was really looking forward to the Hood. The entire Dark Reign era in the comic books was so good. You know, it was just a time for the villains to kind of get their shine, and there was so many great things going on. And the Hood was a big part of that. I think a lot of us have been looking forward to a great Hood figure for a very long time. Unfortunately, they didn't really nail it here. You know, they pretty much utilized the kind of suited Marvel Legends body. So the hard bottom shoes weren't really what you would expect from the Hood. And honestly, if they wanted to go with the sort of original comic book look for the Hood, they should have given him the boots. A lot of things should have been different with this figure, but I think the head sculpt was the most ridiculous aspect, even though the head sculpt has shown up a lot in displays, a lot of joke shots with this head sculpt. But it doesn't really look like the character from the comic books. I felt like the only thing that was really salvageable from this was the actual hood. And even that could have used some work. They could have given us maybe another version of the hood packed in that was a little more dynamic, where the bottom kind of flared out, or maybe some other version where it looked like the hood was kind of wrapped around his invisible body. I mean, they really could have played with this a bit more. But when you take the hood off and you just have the figure, he just looks like some random goon. Well, not a figure that was really worthy of standing alongside the other villains in this wave. In my opinion, he was the weakest figure out of this wave. They just did not get his deco correct. They had so much source material to base this guy on. All they had to do was look at the New Avengers run. I also didn't like that the head sculpt that they did settle on was sort of like a dynamic look. It would have been nice if it was a more sort of relaxed, neutral look, or if they gave us two head sculpts, two hoods would have been great. I mean, I know I'm kind of teetering on that being sort of like a deluxe release at that point, but this one left a lot to be desired. And a dishonorable mention at around the number 4 slot, I would put the retro carded Fantastic Four Invisible Woman there, solely based on the head sculpt, which was just awful. A lot of joke shots about that head sculpt as well. But being that you can just swap on one of the previous Invisible Woman heads, the figure is still salvageable because it's a decent sculpt and she does look great alongside the other members of the team. The number 3 slot is going to go to the Marvel Legends Age of Apocalypse series, Age of Apocalypse Colossus Build-A-Figure Wave Cyclops. Cyclops' look from AOA is such a cool look for Cyclops. It was great to see kind of inverted evil Cyclops as opposed to the version of Cyclops that we've seen over the years in comic books and other media. So having him as part of Apocalypse's crew, closely tied to Sinister, was probably one of the coolest things about the AOA universe and that storyline. And even the early renders of the figure that we saw looked pretty good, but when we all finally got this figure in hand, not so good. The head sculpt in particular is just awful. That part down the middle of his head, it just looks really, really bad. Not to mention that he's on the Bucky cap mold, which we know is getting phased out. I know a lot of people are tired of that mold. They don't want to see it anymore for any characters, definitely not Cyclops. We have yet to get a Cyclops with butterfly joints and really the posability, the mobility that we would want so we can do some dynamic things with Cyclops. But the paint applications were lacking here, and it kind of just leaves a sour spot because now a lot of us are not even looking forward to Havoc. But I suppose if we do get Havoc and Sinister in 2022, then that could make Cyclops a little bit better here. Again, leaves a lot to be desired. So number 3, AOA Cyclops. Coming in at number 2, we're going to switch lines here. That was like 3 or 4 Marvel Legends figures in a row. I mean, Marvel Legends is the line that I collect most, and I get mostly all of those figures. So of course, it's going to be quite a few of those figures that may be in top slots and quite a few of those figures that may be in bottom slots as well, as far as things that I didn't particularly like. But coming in at number 2, it's going to be the Mezco Toys 112 Collective Thanos figure. So overall, it's a beautifully crafted figure that looks pretty good, that photographs pretty nicely, but for the most part, it's just a statue. And we knew, based on what they did with Darkseid, that this would probably be the case with Thanos. And I just thought he was clunky. It was just too much going on with the armor parts. But the fun factor, if I can't pose him, I can't play around with him. If I don't feel the need to break him out often, take him out of the box, then it's going to be at the bottom of the barrel for me. And this was not a cheap figure, and not that I think it was cheaply made or anything like that, but I wish we could have gotten more bang for our buck out of Thanos here. I was cautiously optimistic about getting this guy in hand, and overall it was a letdown. So number 2, Mezco Thanos. And my number 1 most disappointing figure of 2021 that I purchased, that I messed around with, that I tried to display with, is going to be the Medicom Mafex X-Men Psylocke figure. Now, I knew ahead of time that I wasn't going to be happy with the second additional sort of dynamic head sculpt. That's fine, but it's really the sculpt and articulation that kind of threw me off here. Not to mention that I did not like the glittery, shimmery paint that they used on her costume or the swords, but the lack of an upper thigh swivel and the way the sculpt looked in the sort of midsection hip area just does not look good to me. Now, there are some great pictures out there with people doing what people from our ilk do and making figures that may not be that great look really great in pictures, but this is a figure that once I actually got her out of the package made me sad. I just was not happy with this figure at all. No fun factor really. The big draw is that Mafex is building what looks like a Jim Lee style X-Men, and so you really can't pass up on any of the members of that crew if you want to ultimately complete that crew. So I had to begrudgingly buy this figure, but overall I felt like the figure was whack. It just was not good, and a lot of people swear by Mafex and they think that Mafex is killing Marvel Legends, and in certain instances they may be, but not this one. Oh, I hated the ankle articulation too. The ankles didn't hinge down enough. The pivot wasn't good enough. You can't have a psychic ninja with limited articulation. You just can't. Any character that's supposed to be a ninja or that's supposed to be superhumanly agile, you got to give them the right articulation. So I think Mafex dropped the ball here. That was my number one most disappointing figure of 2021. Let me know, what were some of your letdowns throughout the year? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Stay tuned for more top something or others. All right, thanks for hanging out. As always, rate, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell down there. And until next time, peace.
I'm in the game, I'm grinding. I got to play 24 hours in a day, 7 days out the week. I never sleep. I'm on my grizzly bear, 52 weeks out the year.